What's going on, guys? This is Chandler Smith, and I just closed on an 11-unit apartment complex in the most competitive market that I've ever dealt with. And in this video, I'm gonna show you how I did it and how you can too. So with all of that being said, let's jump into it. All right, guys, if you're new to the channel, I've been investing in real estate for the last 8 years, and I now own 135 units of rental real estate after closing on this well, it's not really brand new, but it's new to me, this brand new 11-unit apartment complex. And I want you to know that it is an absurdly competitive market. However, that doesn't mean that you can't or shouldn't still be buying real estate. And so in this video, I'm gonna share with you some of the tips and tricks that I've been able to use to lock down incredible deals even when the market is absolutely insane. First off, you need to know that this was an MLS listing. That means that it was opened up to the public and I was competing against other people. Now, if you can get a property that's off market where it's just you getting the deal, like the storage units that I just locked up that will close on in another 2 weeks, that is a way better situation because then you're not competing against other people. However, for those of you out there that are saying, Chandler, I'm just looking on the MLS, it's impossible to find a good deal because you're competing against people and yada, 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 yada. I'm not trying to be rude, but you can still find good deals. And this deal has turned out to be absolutely incredible, even though we found it off of the MLS. However, the first key thing that we did is we were quick to put in an offer. As a matter of fact, I believe our offer was in before any other offers were in, and that's because I had an agent that came to me and said, Chandler, here's the deal. This property right now is off market. It's going to hit the market soon, and so let's be ready to put in an offer immediately because they want to list it, but we've got a head start. So we drove by the property, we figured out where we thought rents could be, we looked at where rents were, we got all of the information that we possibly could so that we could immediately put in an offer and be the first ones in the door. And I do believe that gave us a huge advantage and we could get moving in the right direction before anyone else had any offers in. The second thing that really helped me was my reputation. Now, this might sound a little bit arrogant. However, I've worked extremely hard to create the reputation that I have. And it's twofold and maybe even threefold. First off, just knowing other investors in the area, knowing other realtors, having people know that you buy real estate. So if you're a new investor, you've got to find ways to build up your reputation other than saying, hey, I own real estate. And that's why it's really hard to get that first deal because a lot of times it's hard to lock it up with a brand new real estate investor because people know new real estate investors are kind of flaky. So if you're dealing with that, you've got to really lean on these other ones I'm going to talk about and potentially find other ways to make yourself stand out so that you can get that first property and then build up your reputation with that property and others moving forward. The next big thing you need to do is make sure that you've got a great reputation with your loan officer. Now, if you don't own a property, that's okay. You can still build a great reputation by getting your taxes in, getting pre-approved, building that relationship with the loan officer, making sure that they understand what your goals are and that you're ready to pull the trigger and that the loan is ready to move forward. Because if you call your loan officer after you already have an offer in and you're in need of them backing you up or giving you a pre-approval letter or whatever else you might need, that's not going to work well in your favor. Because with this specific deal, they immediately asked me for a pre-approval letter. And then after getting that pre-approval letter, the seller's agent reached out to my loan officer and said, hey, how strong is this buyer? Are they really ready to close on this property? Can they close quickly? On and on and on and on. And because I have a relationship with my loan officer, he built me up a lot. He talked me up. He shared that I was a strong buyer and that I was ready to move and that he dealt with me in the past. I was easy to deal with and on and on and on. I've said on and on and on and on a lot in this video, so I apologize. But the point is, if you build that relationship with your bank and your loan officer, they can back you up and that's going to help. The next thing that really helped me is I do have a YouTube channel and the seller's agent actually knew about the YouTube channel. I'm not sure if the seller did as well, but they knew that I was a serious buyer. And so anything you can do to connect with the seller, to connect with the seller's agent, to get your agent to talk you up to the seller's agent so they can talk you up to the seller, whatever you've got to do, make sure that you create a frame of, hey, this guy knows what he's doing. He's ready to close. He can do it in a timely manner and all of those other things. I almost said on and on and on, but I didn't. Next trick, you've got to have huge confidence in your numbers. And if you don't have confidence in your numbers, go and watch my other videos that run through how to analyze a rental property. And if you're still missing something, you can pick up my real estate investing course where I help you run through all of the numbers, everything that you need to know to be prepared to put in an offer and then go through the process, because you need to have extreme confidence in your numbers so that when you do put in your offer and the negotiation does start and you've got that back and forth, you know where your bottom line is. Because a lot of times we negotiate just to get as low of a deal as possible. And sometimes that means we get a really, really good deal. Sometimes that means we got the lowest deal we could, but it's actually a crappy deal. So you've got to have that confidence, because if you don't have that confidence, you might waver, or you might put in an offer, get accepted, and bail for no reason. And now that hurts your reputation, which is going to hurt future deals. Or you go through the whole process and you buy a property that actually sucks. So you've got to have confidence in your numbers so you can get through the process. The other little tip I want to add is you need to know your numbers, but you also need to be able to guesstimate what you're going to be able to work down in due diligence from some of the exterior things and also guesstimates on the interior. But I never do a walkthrough or inspection before I have the property locked up, because then that gives me more leverage in due diligence so that I can get more out of the seller. And if I don't get what I need out of the seller in due diligence because of some of those exterior things I've seen or things on the interior, then I'm going to bail on the deal. And that's kind of how it works. I mean, you're going to put in an offer and say, hey, this is what projected rents are for a 2-bedroom apartment. But then when you go and do the inspection and the inspector says, hey, I found this, 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 and this, and a lot of those things might even be on the exterior, you locked up the deal having not done the inspection, and now you get to use the inspection to push them even lower on that deal, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But don't do a walkthrough before putting it in. Look at the numbers they give you. Look at maybe projections they have. Look at your own projections based on understanding the market. Run your deal on that and then put in your offer. And then understand that you've got to get them up to where the property functions where you need it to based on your projections of where you can get the rents, because then you can say, hey, we need this to make our numbers work when you're in due diligence. Put in an offer before you've actually walked the property or seen stuff. Now, to an extent, right? I'm always gonna drive by and make sure it's not a total hellhole or in a terrible, can I say that on YouTube? Maybe bleep that out. Or in a terrible location, or one of those many things that might turn you off from even putting in an offer. But if you look at it, it's a good, clean property, but it does have some things that you can pick apart in due diligence. Make sure you take advantage of that. The next thing that's really helped me over the years is I'm really good at dealing with messy situations. Now, this specific property, we had a lot of messy situations, and I'm going to talk about more of them in a later deal, but we had easements that needed to be removed. We had a lot of back and forth with the seller. We had a lot of minor / semi-major issues that we found through due diligence, and we got a little bit chippy with the seller. And that may have, I don't know, I'm not gonna dive into why it got chippy, but this was a more chippy deal than I usually like to deal with. But even though it was messy, we held the course, we didn't get emotional, and we didn't do some of those things that can blow up a deal. Because a lot of times, once you get emotional or once you see these stressful things, buyers will just bail, especially if they're inexperienced buyers. But I knew this was a good deal. I knew we could work through it. And so as we worked through these easements and some of the negotiations and due diligence, we were able to get to the finish line, and that's what's important. So understand, there's no such thing as a clean deal, but the messier the deal is, a lot of times the better it is if you handle the mess in the right way and you don't get emotional. One other thing that made this deal messy that I wanted to mention in this video is the seller didn't have a lot of the financials that I would usually prefer to have in a deal like this. They didn't have the taxes. They were unwilling to share those with us. Their profit and loss statements and their books were just absurdly messy, and they didn't want to share those with us. And maybe they weren't as messy as they let on, but for a lot of people, this would be a big turnoff, and it should, right? You need to see these numbers, you need to go through them, you need to see if there are any red flags. However, for us, we got all of the essentials when it came to any expenses we might have, you know, any liens on the property, any other tax issues. We did our due diligence to make sure that all of our bases were covered. However, we weren't able to see how profitable or not profitable this property was, which is something I usually push people to get. However, because I do know this market, I know that we did a good inspection, I'm confident in the numbers and the numbers that we can get the property to. Crappy financials, because it hasn't been run great, weren't going to scare me. And so this is another one of those messy things that we were able to work through and say, hey, it's okay. We're able to get the essentials that we need to be able to confidently buy this property. But that also leans into my next thing, which is make sure that you do due diligence properly. Make sure that you get everything that's required. And there's a long list of stuff you need to go through that I might potentially just release for free, but that is in my real estate investing course that I go through every single time to make sure that I'm not forgetting anything, because due diligence is so important. And what due diligence does is it helps you cover your bases, but it also helps you to pick them apart in due diligence. We did a very good inspection. You check the drain lines out on top of your inspection. You make sure that you bring in multiple subs to bid out a lot of the little issues that you find or bigger issues that you find. And in this specific deal, we're able to get a full $75,000 back at closing, which ended up being extremely beneficial for our numbers, especially because some of the maintenance that we're going to need to take care of, we can actually defer down the road. And I'm not going to dive into how that helps our numbers, but it helped me to bring a lot less to closing. And now we can use the rents from the tenants and pull the expenses from that to be able to cover a lot of the deferred maintenance and just do it right as we're managing these properties. So there's a lot that goes into it, but due diligence is huge, and making sure that then you pick apart the deal in due diligence so that the numbers work again is going to be extremely beneficial. Finally, you've just got to make it to the finish line. And a lot of times in deals like this, it's very easy to get emotional. It's easy to get stressed. It's easy to say, holy crap, why am I doing this? I'm throwing money into this property after bringing on a ton of stress to me for, you know, the couple $1,000s a month it's going to make me. But you've got to remember, a rental property is going to make you money for the rest of your life, and the majority of the work is happening right now, especially if you've got a good management company. And so lean into these stresses. Don't get emotional. Make sure that you make it to the finish line and you've done it the right way, where your rents make sense, your numbers make sense. And if you do, it's going to be awesome. So that's how I was able to lock up this property, and I'm super excited to share with you all the plans that we have and just kind of open up the books for you on what it's going to mean moving into the future. But it's been an absolute blast, and I really hope that these tips and tricks are able to help you to lock up some incredible properties as well. So if you enjoyed the video, make sure remember to smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the little bell, and we'll look forward to seeing you in the future videos. Thanks, guys.